I've got nothing quippy to open with, so let's just get on with the review. Okay, you guys, sorry. I've been a bit distracted today. Little Chibi, as I mentioned during the live stream last night, she had dental surgery today, pretty major surgery. She now has only 2 teeth left in her little tiny mouth. So, been tending to her since we brought her home this afternoon, and she's lying here in my lap, and I'm not real creative at the moment, but I did want to film a review for Lisa Frankenstein. This would just serve as a much shorter sort of commentary of my thoughts than the live stream I did last night with Deleted, which went on for about an hour, which is easy to do when you're in discussion. I'm not complaining. I just want to kind of give a summary of my thoughts for Lisa Frankenstein. So the Regal Mystery Movie Monday, or Monday Mystery Movie, whatever you call it, ended up being Lisa Frankenstein, which surprised the heck out of me because Lisa Frankenstein is opening in 2 days. Thursday preview. As of today, it's Tuesday, February 6th. So that's the closest to a release date I've ever seen a Regal mystery movie. And also, as of today, or earlier today when I was checking, there were no reviews up on Rotten Tomatoes by critics. So I don't know if there's some sort of review embargo out, but typically the closer to release you get and there's no reviews, that almost always means the critics are going to hate it. Well, this critic did not hate it. I enjoyed it. I wasn't super in love with it, but I enjoyed it much more than I thought I would. And so to me, that's saying a lot, because when I remember when I saw the trailer for this, I was thinking, I don't know. And I wasn't necessarily going to buy a ticket and go watch it. But when it showed that this was going to be the movie last night, I was actually excited. And it ended up that this movie was much more entertaining than I expected. It is very much a black comedy. There is violence in here. There is death. It's not necessarily... it's not gory, like they don't get up close and personal with it. This is PG-13, but there are deaths that occur throughout the course of the story. It is censored a bit, you know, so you're not, like I said, you're not seeing everything, but the subject matter is a bit disturbing. However, to offset that, it's a comedy, so you can't really take it super seriously like you would if it were just a full-on horror type story or whatever. This is a black comedy. It reminded me quite a bit of the movie Heathers. Just the tone. The main character, her name is Lisa, obviously. She's a misfit. She's played by Kathryn Newton, who I was not crazy about in the Ant-Man movies. I've made no secret of the fact that I did not like her performance in there. I did not like her character in there. And I was wondering if that was going to affect... Hold on a minute. And I was wondering if that was going to affect my enjoyment of her work down the road. But I'm happy to say that that was not the case with this movie. I really liked her performance in here. I thought she did a fantastic job. She was very expressive with her face and little tiny just movements and quirks of the mouth or the lips or whatever when you could tell what was going on in her head. And her ability to have pretty good comedic timing and physical comedy, and also to be able to capture the more serious and touching moments. The premise of the story is her mother was killed violently, and her father has remarried. She has a stepsister and a stepmother, and she just doesn't fit in. She's just kind of like that awkward, you know, the type that's very often shown in movies. Something that I appreciated about this film was that while her stepmother was the stereotypical evil stepmother, her stepsister was not. Her stepsister was a likable character. She was trying very hard to make Lisa feel like part of the family. She was trying to make them all be this little family unit. She was already calling her stepfather daddy. You know, she just wanted this intact family. She stuck up for Lisa. She was kind to Lisa. I already said that, or something along those lines. So I really liked that character went against the typical type of mold that we get in these sorts of stories. It reminded me of Heathers in the sense that there's this sort of misfit girl, and she ends up being in league with someone who's causing trouble. By that, I am referring to the person that comes up out of the grave, and they have this little adventure time together. She is at a party. She's on some sort of acid trip because her drink was spiked. or a drink that she took had been spiked with PCP. And at the same time, there's this strange thunderstorm that's happening. She ends up wandering away from the location where she is, and she's in the cemetery, which is a place that she likes to go to often because she's so alone. She likes to go sit by this particular grave, and she leaves little trinkets there for the dead person. Anyway, this thunderstorm, they don't really fully explain how this happened. I mean, you just kind of, you're expected to just go with it, okay? The corpse gets reanimated, shows up at her house because during her PCP trip, she made some sort of comment before the storm happened that she wanted to be with the corpse. She wanted to be with him. And so he reanimates, he shows up, and what follows is this crazy screwball black comedy full of some comedic moments, some touching moments, some violence, as she and this reanimated corpse form a friendship and a bond. It's called Lisa Frankenstein for a couple of reasons. One of which you can guess, the other you probably can't, so I'm not going to say anything because this is something that shows up at the end. And while there were moments about this that were kind of goofy in a sense, it wasn't the same level of goofy ridiculousness that was kind of a turnoff for me in the movie Argylle. And it also wasn't the same sort of goofy ridiculousness that is in a film like Dumb and Dumber, which I hate. This goofiness was tied with some pretty dark subject matter, and so those two offset each other. And like Deleted was saying in our discussion yesterday, he felt like there was a bit of a tonal mismatch, like he just felt like the tone was off. For whatever reason, it worked for me, at least for the first viewing. Subsequent viewings might bring my rating down a notch, but for now, I had fun with it more than I expected. I've already said that, I know, but because of that, I've been a bit more generous maybe with my rating for this than I would have been otherwise. I don't know. I will see if I can rewatch this at some point and if my feelings about it change. I'm not sure if just the fact that it was such a surprise to see that this film was the Regal mystery movie, or if I was so impressed with Kathryn Newton's performance, or a little bit of both, or the funny, crazy, twisted sort of comedy that was going on in here. I'm honestly not entirely sure exactly what the secret sauce was for this film to click with me as good as it did. It's not going to end up on my top... Scare me. It's not going to end up on my top 10 favorites of the year, but I had fun with it, and I also liked the 80s vibe. It was very 80s because this takes place in 1989. There was, as we talked last night, there was great soundtrack, great music, the physical acting that the animated corpse had to, oh gosh, it's one of the twin brothers from The Sweet Life with Zach and Cody. We talked about it last night. His acting, his was a lot more physical than hers because initially when he has been reanimated, he's very stiff and he's holding his body in a very uncomfortable looking way. So I'm just hoping he didn't put his back out filming some of those scenes. But I felt like he did a pretty good job too. He didn't have really any lines of dialogue to speak of until a particular moment, but he had to hold his face in a certain way, and he had to hold his body with a certain posture. As the movie goes on, that changes. He gets a little bit more human-like and human-looking. It shows you why in the movie. It's totally ridiculous, but I went with it. I was able to go with it because for whatever reason, like I said, this worked for me. So I just wanted to give a little quick sort of summarization of my thoughts on Lisa Frankenstein. I think if you liked a movie like Heathers, you would like this. I don't think this is as good as Heathers, but also Heathers was a bit different in that Heathers didn't involve a supernatural thing happening, whereas with this one, it does. This corpse comes back to life. Things are done throughout the course of the movie and it becomes more and more human-like. So obviously you're starting off with a crazy premise, right? So right away you have to suspend certain levels of disbelief, and because the way they just kind of opened up with everything and as things progressed and went on, you're just like, yeah, this is totally ridiculous, but I can go with it. I'm going with it. Sure, makes total sense. Was it? Anyway, you might not know what I'm talking about until you get a chance to watch this film. And if you do happen to check it out, let me know what you think. I'm curious to find out who I part ways with on this. Deleted wasn't as on board with this one as I was. He didn't hate it, but it just didn't quite work for him. And yet it worked better for me. So I'm curious to find out, if you guys watch it, what you thought about it. If it was something that you thought was really quirky and entertaining, and even though it was ridiculous, you were able to just kind of go with the flow, or if you thought it was just so nonsensical you just couldn't. I totally get that feeling, because that happens with me. And a lot of it depends on how serious a movie takes itself. Now, I know Dumb and Dumber doesn't take itself seriously, but that's just pure comedy nonsense. This is some comedic nonsense, but it's mixed with other elements that made it much more appealing to me. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Lisa Frankenstein. It opens nationwide in a couple of days. Let's see, February 8th, I think. Well, the official release date is the 9th, I believe, but Thursday previews will be the 8th. So I'm really curious to see what the reception is going to be for this, because it's just, we're so in the dark right now with the official critics reviews and audience reviews, because I think there's, obviously there have only been a handful of people that have been able, well, not more than a handful, but people that went to the Regal Mystery Movie. Some reviews for this are trickling in through Letterboxd, but I'm not seeing a score yet on IMDb. I don't even know if they've opened that up for a rating. And also on Rotten Tomatoes, it's not opened up yet for just regular users to post a rating. That will change on release day, but I'm going to keep my eye on that and see what happens. I don't have really anything else to say about Lisa Frankenstein, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and looking forward to what you guys think about it if you get a chance to watch it, if you're even interested. If you're not, I would totally get it. But yeah, wrapping this one up, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Later.